Hello, my name is Sean Gallagher, 37 years old. I live in Springfield, Illinois, a small town with streets lined with oak trees and rustic red brick houses. I'm not a banker nor an engineer or some kind of executive. By day, I'm a warehouse worker, and when the sun sets, I become a delivery driver navigating my old truck through quiet streets. 2 jobs, 16 hours a day, sometimes more. But I don't complain. This life is my choice because I have Tessa, my kind-hearted wife, and Lila, our 2-year-old daughter with a smile as bright as the sun. They are the reason I get up every morning even when my body feels like it's falling apart. I'm sitting here in the small kitchen of the house we scrimped and saved to buy after years of effort, writing these lines as a way to hold on to memories. The house we bought isn't big or luxurious, but it's the first true home that belongs to us. Every brick, every window frame is steeped in the sweat and hopes of Tessa and me. I still remember the day we moved in, Tessa standing in the living room holding Lila in her arms, beaming, "Sean, this is our home, truly ours." I took her hand and promised I'd do everything to keep it safe, to ensure Lila grows up in a place filled with love, unlike my own childhood. My childhood. I don't talk about it often, but perhaps I should start there so you can understand why things unfolded the way they did. I grew up in Decatur, not far from Springfield, in a house always heavy with the smell of cigarette smoke and the sound of arguments. My father, Patrick, was a gruff man, always carrying the scent of whiskey and bitterness. He used to be a mechanic, but most of his time was spent at casinos or racetracks, gambling away everything he had, and things that weren't his to lose. My mother, Helen, was the heart of the family. She was kind, gentle, but her eyes always held a sadness I only understood when I grew older. She worked at a tailor shop, laboring over every stitch to provide for me and Ryan, my younger brother, while my father squandered money on meaningless bets. Ryan, 3 years younger than me, grew up more like my father than I'd hoped. He inherited that impulsive streak, the thrill for risk, and especially a passion for gambling. As a teenager, Ryan would sneak money from Mom's savings to bet on basketball games and later on worse things. I remember the nights Mom sat crying in the kitchen, holding my hand tightly, whispering, "Sean, you're my pride. You're different from them. You'll do something good." Those words were like a small flame guiding me through dark days. I loved my mother more than anyone in the world. She was the only one in the family who made me feel like I was worth something. Every week I try to drive back to Decatur to visit Mom. Those trips are the most precious moments of my life. I'd sit with her in her small kitchen drinking the strong black coffee she brewed, listening to her stories about the old days when she was young and full of dreams. She often talked about her treasure, a portfolio she said would secure my future. I'd just smile, thinking she was comforting me that it was just money from life insurance or some small savings. Once when I was a kid, she showed me paper stock certificates carefully stored in a metal box under her bed. I didn't understand their value, only that she cherished them like a sacred secret. "One day, Sean," she said, her eyes sparkling, "you'll understand." My life in Springfield isn't glamorous, but it's steady. I start my day at 5 in the morning when the air is still misty. I head to the warehouse where I haul heavy crates, sweat soaking through my shirt. At night, I drive deliveries, weaving through quiet streets, the radio playing old songs Tessa loves. Tessa, she's a preschool teacher with a gentle smile that can soothe any heart. She loves the kids, loves her job, even though the pay is never enough. Lila, our little girl, is the center of our world. Every time Lila runs into my arms calling "Daddy" in her clear, bright voice, all my exhaustion melts away. Then one evening, after a late delivery shift, I got a call from Mom. Her voice was frail, unlike her usual self. "Sean, can you come visit me?" she asked, her voice trembling. My heart tightened. "Are you okay?" I asked, but she just chuckled softly, saying she just missed me. I promised I'd visit by the weekend, but deep down, I had an uneasy feeling. I didn't know that just a few days later, everything I knew about my family would come crashing down. I drove to Decatur on a Saturday morning as the weather turned chilly. The trees lining the road had turned golden, leaves scattering across the windshield. Tessa stayed home with Lila, telling me to bring back some of Mom's cookies, which Lila loves. When I arrived, Mom was sitting in her old armchair, wrapped in the green sweater she often wore. She looked tired, but still gave me a warm smile when she saw me. "My boy," she said, taking my hand. I sat down, talking to her about Lila, our new house, our small plans, but I noticed she wasn't really listening. Her eyes wandered, as if lost in a distant memory. "Sean," she said suddenly, her voice serious, "I want you to promise me something." Surprised, I nodded. "I want you to live your own life. Don't let anyone drag you down, not your father, not Ryan." I laughed, thinking she was worrying too much. "Mom, I'm fine. I have Tessa, Lila. I won't let anyone hurt them." But she shook her head, gripping my hand tighter. "You don't understand, Sean. One day you'll have to be stronger than you think." Those words echoed in my mind the whole drive back to Springfield. I drove through familiar roads, the red sunset painting the wheat fields golden. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, telling myself Mom was just tired, that she was only worried because of the endless arguments with Dad and Ryan. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't expect that a few days later darkness would descend, pulling me into a storm I was never prepared for. Then the fateful day arrived. I'll never forget that afternoon. Just a few days after visiting Mom, my phone buzzed in my pocket as I loaded the last crates onto the truck. I hurriedly pulled off my gloves, wiped the sweat from my brow, and pressed the phone to my ear. On the other end was Ryan's voice, trembling, choked with emotion, a rarity for my impulsive, brash younger brother. "Sean, Mom, she's not waking up." I froze in the middle of the warehouse lot, my heart plummeting to the ground. I didn't ask anything more. I didn't need to. The way he spoke, the hollow, helpless sound in Ryan's voice, was enough to tell me everything was beyond control. I abandoned everything, jumped into the truck, and sped toward Decatur. The road I knew by heart suddenly felt endlessly long and cold. With every mile that passed, I prayed just one thing. "Mom, please, you have to be okay." When I reached the hospital, the stark white neon lights illuminated the cold hallway. Ryan stood in a corner of the waiting room, his hair disheveled, eyes red and swollen. My father, Patrick, sat on a chair, head bowed, hands clutching his head. I didn't have time to ask what had happened. A doctor approached, his face grave. "Are you Sean Gallagher?" he asked. I nodded, my throat dry. "Your mother. She didn't make it. We did everything we could, but the heart attack was too severe." I stood there, stunned, as if the entire world had collapsed beneath my feet. Ryan burst into tears, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Dad said nothing, just stood up and walked away as if he couldn't bear to face me. I don't clearly remember how I got through the next few hours. I sat by Mom's hospital bed, looking at her lying there, her face peaceful as if she were sleeping. I held her hand cold to the touch and whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have come sooner." But she didn't answer. She was gone, taking my entire world with her. The next day I stepped into the house, the old house where I grew up, and felt the air suffocatingly heavy. The smell of cigarette smoke still lingered, and the kitchen where Mom used to sit was now empty and cold. Ryan sat at the table, face buried in his hands, hair a mess, eyes red. Dad, meanwhile, sat on the sofa holding a glass of whiskey as if nothing had happened. "Your mom was always weak," he muttered, as if shrugging off responsibility. I didn't say anything. If I had opened my mouth then, I might have screamed, might have hit him, might have shattered in front of Ryan. Instead, I clenched my fists and turned away. The funeral took place 3 days later. The sky poured cold rain. I stood by Mom's grave, my arm around Tessa's shoulders, while Lila slept in her arms, unaware of what was happening. Old neighbors, Mom's friends, and a few colleagues from the tailor shop came to pay their respects. They whispered that she was a good woman, someone who quietly sacrificed. I heard every word, each one piercing my heart like a needle. After the funeral, when almost everyone had left, Patrick called me out to the back porch. He stood under the awning, taking a drag from his last cigarette, and said casually, as if nothing had happened, "I know your mom had life insurance. You're the beneficiary, right?" I looked at him. There was no trace of grief in his eyes, just anticipation, like he was waiting for a slice of a pie he hadn't helped bake. I nodded slowly. "Yeah." She left it to me. Ryan stepped closer, his voice hoarse but his eyes gleaming. "Split it, Sean. Split it, Sean. It's Mom's money. She wouldn't want us left with nothing while you keep it all." I looked at the two men before me, my own flesh and blood, yet so painfully distant. I knew if I refused, there'd be trouble. Mom had just passed. I didn't want to argue on the day we said goodbye to her. I also didn't want to worry Tessa or let Lila grow up witnessing a family torn apart over money. "Fine," I said, my voice dry. "I'll split it. Each gets a share, but only this once." They didn't thank me. They just nodded as if it was a given. I knew then that I had opened a door that would not be easy to close later. The days after the funeral, I tried to return to my routine. Every morning I woke at 5 when the air was still misty to head to the warehouse. The clank of metal from the crates, the smell of machine oil, and the sweat soaking my shirt had become part of me. At night I drove deliveries through the quiet streets of Springfield, where dim streetlights cast a golden glow on the oak trees. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the emptiness. Mom was gone, and her final words, "You'll have to be stronger than you think," echoed in my mind like a prophecy I wasn't ready to face. Tessa noticed the change in me. She didn't say anything, but I saw the way she looked at me when I sat dazed at the dinner table, or how she squeezed my hand tighter when Lila ran into my arms. "Are you okay, Sean?" she asked one Saturday night after Lila had fallen asleep. I nodded, forcing a weak smile. "I'm fine. Just missing Mom." Tessa didn't press further. She just hugged me, her warmth a reminder that I still had a family, a home to protect. But that home was soon invaded. 3 months after the funeral, I got a call from Ryan. I was on a break at the warehouse, sitting on an old wooden crate eating a sandwich Tessa had packed. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I saw Ryan's name, that uneasy feeling crept back. "Sean, you free?" His voice was hoarse, like he'd just woken up after a long night. "I need to talk." "About what?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. "Can we meet tonight at your place? I need help." I wanted to say no, to tell him I was tired, that I didn't want to get tangled in his mess. But the memory of Mom, of how she always hoped Ryan and I would get along, stopped me from refusing. "Fine," I said. "Tonight, 7 o'clock. When I got home, Tessa was playing with Lila in the living room. Lila was stacking wooden blocks into a wobbly tower, giggling each time it fell. Tessa looked up, saw my face, and asked, "What's wrong, Sean?" I told her about Ryan's call. She frowned but said nothing. Tessa knew my brother well, the times he borrowed money from Mom, the family arguments. But she also knew I couldn't turn my back on Ryan, not because I wanted to help, but because of Mom. At 7, Ryan showed up at our door. He was thinner than the last time I saw him, his hair a mess, his shirt crumpled like it was pulled from the bottom of a laundry basket. He walked in without waiting for an invitation. Tessa stood carrying Lila to the bedroom with a worried glance. I gestured for Ryan to sit at the kitchen table and poured him a glass of water. "Talk," I said, my voice dry. Ryan didn't meet my eyes. He fidgeted with the glass, his fingers restless. "The insurance money. It's gone." I froze. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "Mom left over $70,000, Ryan. What did you do with it?" He shrugged like it was no big deal. I bet on a few basketball games. Thought I'd win big. Then I tried the casino, but just bad luck." "Bad luck?" I clenched my fists, trying to contain my anger. "You blew through Mom's money in 3 months on gambling?" "Not just me," Ryan muttered, finally looking up. "Dad too. He played the horses. It's all gone." My blood boiled. Patrick, my father, who never checked on Mom when she was alive, who walked away right after she died, had also squandered his share. And now Ryan was sitting here acting like I was supposed to clean up their mess. "What do you want, Ryan?" I asked, my voice cold. "I need money, Sean. I owe some people. Not much, just a few thousand. Help me out, just this once." I stood pacing the kitchen to keep myself in check. "You think I'm a bank? I have a family. I don't have money to throw at your stupid mistakes." Ryan shot up. "You don't get it. These people, they don't mess around, Sean. If I don't pay, they'll come for me. They know where you live, where Tessa and Lila are." His words hit like a punch to the face. I stepped forward, grabbed his collar, and pulled him close. "Don't you dare mention my wife and daughter," I growled. "You made this mess, you fix it." The weeks that followed became a nightmare. Ryan started showing up more often unannounced. Some days I'd come home from work to find him on the sofa, eating Lila's cookies, his dirty boots propped on the coffee table. Tessa stood in the corner, face flushed with anger but holding back to avoid a scene in front of Lila. "He let himself in," she whispered, her voice full of frustration. "The back door wasn't locked." I kicked Ryan out, but he just smirked. "Relax, big brother. Just visiting." But I knew he wasn't just visiting. He wanted money, wanted me to bail him out of the trouble he'd caused. Then came Patrick. One night after a late delivery shift, I got home near 10 and saw his beat-up truck parked in our driveway. He was in the kitchen drinking a beer from my fridge like he owned the place. Tessa was putting Lila to bed, but I could hear her stifling sobs. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Patrick shrugged like it was nothing. "Need a place to crash for a few days. My place? It's under repair." "Repair?" I scoffed. "You mean you got evicted for not paying rent, right?" He didn't answer, just took another swig of beer. "Look, Sean, I'm your father. You've got a house, a job, help me out. What's the big deal?" I wanted to scream, to throw him out right then. But Mom's image flashed in my mind, her gentle voice. "Sean, you're my pride." I didn't want to let her down, even if she was gone. "One night," I said. "Just one night, then you leave." But one night turned into 3, then a week. Patrick and Ryan started acting like they owned the place. They ate through our fridge, left dirty dishes piled in the sink. One day I came home to find Tessa crying in the bedroom, Lila clinging to her. "They ransacked the kitchen, Sean," she said, her voice breaking. "They took the change from Lila's piggy bank. I can't take this anymore." It felt like someone was squeezing my heart. Tessa, always gentle and patient, was breaking because of the people I called family. "I'll handle it," I promised, though I wasn't sure how. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, Ryan showed up at the door, pale and shaken. "Sean, we need to talk. Now." I pulled him outside, not wanting Tessa or Lila to hear. "What now?" I asked. Ryan looked down, his voice trembling. I owe money to some people. Bad people, Sean. I gambled, lost big. They want 15,000 or they'll do something." "Are you kidding me?" I grabbed his shoulder, shaking him. "You dragged my family into this?" "I didn't mean to," Ryan shouted. "I had no choice. You've got a house, Sean. Mortgage it, just this once. I swear I'll pay you back." I shoved him away, my blood boiling. "Mortgage the house? Do you know how hard Tessa and I worked for this place? You think I'd throw it all away for your mistakes?" Ryan looked at me, his eyes desperate. "If you don't help, they'll come here. They know your address." His words cut like a knife. I stood frozen as he walked away, his thin frame disappearing into the dawn. When I turned back, Tessa was at the door, her face pale. "I heard everything," she said. "Sean, I'm scared." I hugged her, trying to reassure her, but inside a storm was brewing. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know where to start. Ryan and Patrick had pulled me into a quagmire, and I couldn't let Tessa and Lila get hurt. The days that followed, I realized I was losing control of my life. Ryan and Patrick showed up more often, each time with a new excuse. Money for debts, a place to stay, needing me to help family. I tried to say no, but they wouldn't stop. One day I came home to find Patrick rummaging through the living room drawers. "What are you doing?" I roared. "Looking for some change," he said like it was normal. "You've got a whole house, Sean. Don't be stingy with your old man." I kicked him out, but he just smirked. "You're too much like your mom. Always thinking you're better than everyone else." His words stung like a slap. I wanted to argue, but they reminded me of Mom, of how she always protected me even when she had no strength left. Tessa started to change. She smiled less, checked the locks before bed, and held Lila tighter at every strange noise outside. One night, as I read Lila a bedtime story, Tessa pulled me into the kitchen. "Sean, I can't live like this anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "They're destroying us. I'm scared one day Ryan's creditors will show up here." I knew she was right. I'd tried to keep my promise to Mom to be a good brother, a good son, but now I had to choose. My little family or the relatives who'd turned their backs on me long ago. A week later, I decided to confront Ryan. I called him to a small coffee shop on the outskirts of Springfield, where no one knew us. I sat across from him, looking into the tired, desperate eyes of my younger brother. "Ryan," I said, my voice calm but firm, "this is the last time I'm talking to you about this. I'm not mortgaging the house. I'm not giving you another dime. You need to fix your own mess." Ryan slammed his hand on the table, drawing looks from a few patrons. "You think I want this? You think I don't regret it? But I'm out of options, Sean. Those people, they'll kill me." I looked at him, and for the first time I didn't see my brother. I saw a man consumed by gambling just like our father. "I'll help you one last time," I said. "I'll take you to the police. You tell them everything about the people you owe. They'll protect you." Ryan shook his head, his eyes red. "You don't get it. The police can't help. These people have connections everywhere." He stood and stormed out, leaving me with a cold cup of coffee. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay beside Tessa, listening to her steady breathing, but my mind was flooded with images of Mom, Ryan, and the unseen dangers closing in. I thought about the treasure Mom had mentioned, the stock certificates in the metal box under her bed. Did they really exist? Could they be a way out for me, for Tessa and Lila? 6 months after Mom's death, my life felt like an old truck rattling down a bumpy road, always on the verge of breaking down. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, my phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. I hesitated, thinking of the man in the black car from a few weeks ago, but I answered anyway. "Hello, this is Sean Gallagher." "Good morning, Mr. Gallagher," a calm, professional voice replied. "I'm Daniel Harper, an attorney with Harper & Associates in Decatur. I'm contacting you regarding your mother, Helen Gallagher's estate. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? There are some important matters to discuss." I froze, my hand tightening around the phone. "Estate? You mean the life insurance? I already received that." Harper chuckled softly, a sound both gentle and meaningful. "Not exactly, Mr. Gallagher. It's something else. I'll explain when you come. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, does that work?" I nodded, though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, I'll be there." When I hung up, my heart was pounding. Estate? Mom never mentioned anything beyond the life insurance and those old stock certificates in the metal box. I remembered the time she showed them to me when I was a kid, her eyes sparkling as she talked about her treasure. Back then, I thought she was just comforting me, that it was just some small savings. But Harper's voice, the confidence in his words, made me feel something bigger was waiting. The next morning, I took a half-day off from the warehouse and drove to Decatur. Harper & Associates was in a quiet corner of town, a red brick building with gleaming glass doors. I walked in, feeling out of place in my rumpled work clothes, sweat still lingering on my brow. A secretary smiled and led me to Harper's office. Daniel Harper was a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a sharp navy suit. He stood, shaking my hand with a firm grip. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Gallagher," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "I know this might be unexpected, but your mother, Helen, left behind a significant estate." I sat down, trying to stay calm. "What estate?" "I thought everything was settled with the insurance." Harper smiled, pulling a thick, neatly bound folder from his desk drawer. "Helen was a very smart woman, Mr. Gallagher. She didn't just leave life insurance. She set up an independent trust, and you are the sole beneficiary." I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. "A trust? What do you mean?" Harper slid the folder toward me, opening it to a page filled with numbers and charts. "Helen started investing in stocks over 20 years ago, back when she worked at the tailor shop. She picked small tech companies, names no one paid attention to at the time, like a little software firm in Silicon Valley or an e-commerce startup. Some of those companies are giants now. Her portfolio is currently worth approximately $15 million. I felt the blood drain from my face. $15 million? I repeated, my voice hoarse, the words barely forming. "You're kidding me, right?" Harper shook his head, his eyes serious. "I'm completely serious. Helen established this trust 10 years ago with the condition that only you could access it. No one else, not your father, Patrick, nor your brother, Ryan, has any claim to it. She signed a very strict contract to ensure it can't be contested." I sat there, stunned, my mind reeling. $15 million. The number was so vast, so far beyond the life of a warehouse worker like me, whose biggest dream was paying off the house mortgage. I thought of Mom, of the nights she stayed up late in the kitchen poring over calculations, of how she always spoke of her treasure with glowing eyes. It wasn't just comfort. It was real. Harper handed me a separate sheet of paper. "Helen also left a note for you." I took it, instantly recognizing Mom's slanted handwriting. It wasn't a long letter, just a few short lines, but they were enough to make my heart ache. "Sean, my dear son, this is my final insurance for you. I know life hasn't been easy, and I know family can drag you down. Use this to build a good future for Tessa and Lila. Don't let anyone take your freedom away. I love you." I folded the paper, tears welling up. Mom had known long ago that Patrick and Ryan would become a burden. She'd quietly worked, invested, saved, just to ensure I had a chance she never had. "Why didn't she tell me?" I asked, my voice trembling. Harper sighed. "Helen knew that revealing this could cause trouble. She wanted to protect you, and she wanted this money disclosed only after she was gone. She chose me to manage the trust with the condition that I contact you only when things were settled." Harper continued. "I know you're facing difficulties. Helen mentioned your father and brother. She worried they'd pressure you. That's why the trust was set up discreetly. But now that you know, you can access the funds whenever you're ready. I'd advise caution. Wealth like this can attract unwanted attention." I nodded, but one thought consumed me. Ryan and Patrick. If they found out about this trust, they'd cling to me like leeches. And those loan sharks Ryan owed, if they caught wind of this money, they wouldn't stop at $15,000. "So, what do I do now?" I asked. Harper pulled out another stack of papers. "You can start by opening an account to transfer the funds from the trust. I can help you plan, reinvest, buy a new house, or set up a fund for your daughter, Lila. But most importantly, you need to keep this quiet, at least until you're ready." On the drive back to Springfield, I drove slower than usual, my mind a mess. $15 million. That money could change everything. Pay off the mortgage, move Tessa and Lila somewhere safe, give Lila a future I never dared dream of. But it could also destroy everything if Ryan or Patrick found out. I thought of Mom's words. "Don't let anyone take your freedom away." She was right. I had to protect Tessa and Lila, no matter the cost. The days following my meeting with Harper, I tried to keep the trust fund a secret. I didn't tell anyone, not even Tessa, the full details of the money. I only told her that Mom had left behind an estate, enough for us to start over if needed. Tessa nodded, but her eyes were still filled with worry. "Sean, what are you going to do about Ryan and your dad?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They won't stop." I knew she was right. Ryan and Patrick had become shadows, clinging to us like vultures catching the scent of carrion. But everything changed one Saturday evening, about a month after my meeting with Harper. It was bitterly cold, with a drizzle blanketing Springfield. I'd just returned from a delivery shift, my body exhausted, my clothes soaked with sweat and rain. Tessa was reading to Lila in the bedroom, and I was taking off my shoes when I heard a loud pounding at the door. Not knocking, pounding, as if someone wanted to break it down. I peered through the small window, my heart racing. Ryan was there, his hair drenched, standing next to Patrick and two strangers. One of them, a tall man in a black coat, stood out. "Sean, open the door. We need to talk," Ryan shouted. The noise drew Tessa's attention. She appeared at the bedroom door, her face pale. "Sean, don't open it," she whispered, clutching Lila tightly. But the pounding grew louder, and I heard Patrick's voice. "Open the door or I'll break it down." I knew I couldn't avoid this. I opened the door, standing firm in the doorway. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cold. Ryan stepped forward, but the man in the black coat raised a hand to stop him. He looked at me, his eyes sharp as knives. "Sean Gallagher, right? Ryan says you've got money, a lot of it. We're here to collect our share." I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. "I don't have anything. Whatever Ryan owes you, name the amount. I'll pay it, but don't come here again." The man in the black coat smirked. 15,000? That's just the start. Ryan says you inherited a fortune from your mom. I don't like being played, Sean." Patrick pushed forward, his voice slurred. "Tell us, Sean. Where's the money? Tessa put you up to this, didn't she? That girl always wanted to tear the family apart." I turned to Patrick, my blood boiling. "Shut up. Don't talk about Tessa." But before I could say more, the man in the black coat stepped closer, pointing at my face. "Don't mess with me, Sean. I know you've got money. Hand it over or things will get worse." Tessa, from inside the house, had already started calling the police. The sound of her talking on the phone made the man in the black coat back off quickly. My father and brother didn't dare make a move either. They retreated after hurling threats and insults at my family. While waiting for the police, I held Tessa and Lila, trying to comfort them. Tessa was trembling, tears streaming down her face. "Sean, I can't live like this anymore," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You have to choose. Either Lila and I get to live in peace or we'll be trapped by them forever." I looked into Tessa's eyes, seeing her pain and desperation. Lila clung to my neck, sobbing. I knew she was right. I tried to make peace, to be a good brother, a good son, but Ryan and Patrick would never stop. They'd crossed the final line. The police arrived 10 minutes later, their red and blue lights flashing in the rainy night. I told them everything, from Ryan's debts to the threats. They took notes, promised to patrol the area, but the lead officer's look told me they couldn't protect us forever. That night, after Lila fell asleep, Tessa and I sat in the kitchen, the dim yellow light casting shadows on the old wooden table. Tessa held my hand, her voice more resolute than ever. "Sean, we have to leave. Use the money your mom left to move somewhere new, somewhere they can't find us." I looked into Tessa's eyes, seeing a mix of desperation and determination. She had endured too much. Ryan's late-night door pounding, Patrick's venomous accusations, the cold stare of the man in the black coat outside our home. Lila, our little girl, was starting to sense the fear, even if she didn't understand why her mother held her tighter every time the doorbell rang. Tessa was right. I couldn't let them keep being dragged into the mess Ryan and Patrick had created. Mom had given me a chance, $15 million in a trust fund to build a life of freedom, and I couldn't let it slip away. "Okay," I said, my voice hoarse. "We'll leave. I'll contact Harper, arrange everything. We'll start over, just the three of us." Tessa hugged me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you, Sean," she whispered. "Thank you for choosing us." But deep down, I knew this choice wasn't easy. Cutting ties with Ryan and Patrick wasn't just about leaving a place. It was about abandoning a part of my past. The memories of Mom, of the days when Ryan and I were kids running through the wheat fields in Decatur, when he wasn't consumed by gambling, when Patrick was still a father, flawed but present. Despite the pain they'd caused, they were still family. But when I thought of Lila, of her bright smile, I knew I had no other choice. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. I contacted Daniel Harper, Mom's lawyer, to transfer a portion of the trust fund into a secure account. Harper, with the caution of someone who'd seen plenty of family drama, advised me to keep everything under wraps. "You need to disappear completely," he said over the phone, his voice calm. "No traces, no phone number, no address. I'll help you handle the paperwork." I agreed. We decided to sell our house in Springfield, the first home Tessa and I had built, where Lila was born, where we'd poured our sweat and hopes. Every brick, every window frame held memories. Lila's laughter as she took her first steps, the nights Tessa and I sat at the kitchen table dreaming of a better future. But now those memories were overshadowed by Ryan's pounding on the door, Patrick's shouting, and the fear in Tessa's eyes. The house was no longer safe. I found a discreet real estate agency to sell the house quickly and anonymously. While waiting, Tessa and I discussed where we'd go. One night after Lila was asleep, we spread a map on the kitchen table, the yellow light illuminating its hand-drawn lines. "Oregon," Tessa suggested, her finger pointing to a spot on the map. "I read it has forests, the ocean, clean air. Lila would love running around outside." I smiled, picturing Lila playing on lush green grass, no more late-night knocks. "Oregon sounds great," I said. But I was also thinking about Vermont. I saw pictures of small villages there, with roads covered in golden leaves, peaceful hills. We could start fresh. Tessa tilted her head, a soft smile forming. "Vermont? Sounds like a dream. A place where Lila can grow up without fear." In the end, we chose Stowe, Vermont, a small town nestled among green hills and vibrant maple forests. Harper helped us find a rental, a cozy wooden house with a backyard overlooking a sparkling stream, its waters gurgling over smooth pebbles. "No one will know you're there," Harper said when he sent the lease agreement through an encrypted email. "I'll ensure all paperwork is handled so no one can trace you." The sale of the Springfield house went quickly. We packed our most cherished belongings, Lila's photo album, the old armchair Tessa loved, and the metal box containing Mom's stock certificates, which I kept as a sacred keepsake. I didn't contact Ryan or Patrick, didn't leave a letter or message. I wanted them gone from my life, the way they'd turned my home into a battlefield. The day we left Springfield, a light drizzle fell, raindrops streaking down the car windows. I stood in front of the house one last time, looking at the golden oak trees, the streets where I'd driven deliveries every night. Tessa held Lila, who was dozing in her arms, unaware we were leaving the place where she was born. "You okay?" Tessa asked, placing a hand on my shoulder, her voice gentle but tinged with worry. I nodded, though my heart was heavy. "Yeah, let's go." We got in the car, leaving Springfield in the rearview mirror. I didn't look back, but inside I knew I was leaving a part of myself behind. The part tied to Mom, to the hard but meaningful days. Stowe, Vermont was a different world. The wooden house we rented sat at the end of a winding path, surrounded by towering maples, their leaves blazing red in the fall, lush green in the summer. The stream behind the house babbled, reflecting sunlight through the trees. No car horns, no late night pounding on the door, just birdsong, the rustle of wind through leaves, and Lila's clear laughter as she ran in the yard, collecting shiny pebbles or chasing butterflies. Tessa regained her smile, the tension that had haunted her eyes in Springfield slowly fading. Lila loved the backyard, where she built sandcastles from damp soil or sat on the grass watching Tessa plant sunflowers, Lila's little sons. Watching them, I felt my heart healing bit by bit. I contacted Harper through a new phone number, ensuring no one from our past could track us. He helped me transfer a portion of the trust fund into a bank account, enough for us to live comfortably without grinding ourselves to the bone. But Tessa and I didn't want to just sit back and spend money. We wanted to build something meaningful, not just for us, but for Lila and the community we now called home. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, its crackling glow lighting up Tessa's face, she took my hand and said, "Sean, I want to open a preschool. I love teaching kids, and here I think we could create something special. A place where children are loved, where they can play like Lila." I looked at her, pride swelling in my chest. "That's a great idea, Tessa," I said. "I'll help you. We'll use some of Mom's money to start." We got to work. With Harper's help, I invested a portion of the trust fund to buy a small plot of land in Stowe, where we built a preschool called Sunflower, the name Lila picked because of her love for the sunflowers in our garden. Tessa became the head teacher, designing a creative curriculum with storytelling, painting, and outdoor play among the green hills. I helped with management, repairs, and sometimes played with the kids, pushing them on swings or teaching them to plant seeds. Lila, now 3, was the school's first student, always toddling after her mom, singing nursery rhymes. Our life settled into a rhythm. I no longer had to wake at 5 to haul crates or drive deliveries through cold streets. Instead, I had time to take Lila on walks, read her stories, or sit with Tessa watching the sunset paint the hills. The trust fund money gave us financial security, freedom from the grind of survival. But more than that, it gave us the freedom Mom had hoped for. The freedom to live true to what we valued: family, love, and peaceful days. 3 years later, an incident made me suddenly think of Ryan and Patrick. One morning, I took Lila to Stowe Hospital for a routine checkup. In the waiting room, I saw a young man about my age sitting by the bedside of an elderly man with white hair, frail and lying in a hospital bed. The young man held the older man's hand, gently wiping sweat from his forehead, whispering words of comfort. "Dad, you'll be okay," he said, his voice warm and steady. The old man smiled weakly, his eyes lighting up as he looked at his son. The scene tugged at my heart. I thought of Patrick, of the times he was drunk and yelling in my face, of the harsh words he threw at Tessa. I thought of Ryan, of the days when we were kids, when he was the mischievous little brother trailing me through the wheat fields in Decatur. I had cut off contact with them, but a part of me, the part tied to Mom, to family memories, still wondered how they were doing. Had Ryan escaped the quicksand of gambling? Had Patrick changed even a little? I didn't plan to find them, but the image of the son caring for his father in the hospital wouldn't leave me. I needed to know, not to reconnect, but to fully close the door on the past. After dropping Lila off at home, I told Tessa I needed to go back to Decatur one last time. "Just to see how things are," I said. "I promise I won't contact them." Tessa looked at me, her eyes filled with worry but also understanding. "Are you sure, Sean? You don't have to do this." "I know," I replied, "but I need to for Mom, for myself." I drove to Decatur on an autumn day when the wheat fields glowed golden under the pale sunlight. Mom's old house came into view at the end of the road, but it had changed. The front yard was neat, the fence freshly painted, and a strange car was parked out front. I stopped the car, my heart pounding. The house no longer belonged to our family. Someone had bought it, turned it into their home. I got out and walked to the house of Ms. Martha, Mom's old neighbor. She was watering plants in her yard, her silver hair glinting in the sun. When she saw me, she gasped, setting down her watering can. "Sean, my goodness, when did you get back?" "Just today, Ms. Martha," I said, managing a smile. "How are you?" "The house. Who lives there now?" Ms. Martha sighed, gesturing toward the old house. "A young family bought it 2 years ago. They fixed it up, made it real nice." "But Sean, are you here because of, your dad and brother?" I nodded, my throat tightening. "Do you know anything about them?" Ms. Martha led me into her kitchen, brewing 2 cups of strong black coffee just like Mom used to make. She sat down, her voice low and somber. "Ryan, he was arrested a few months ago. Got caught in a big betting fraud scheme, racked up debts. He's in prison now, probably for a few years." I sat, a mix of relief and heartache washing over me. "And my dad?" I asked. Ms. Martha looked out the window, her gaze distant. "Patrick. He passed away last year in a gambling rehab facility on the outskirts of town. He lived alone, Sean. No one visited except Ryan a few times before he got locked up. I heard he got weak, not like he used to be." I sat in silence, sipping the coffee, its bitterness filling my mouth. I didn't feel joy, but I also didn't feel the pain I'd expected. Ryan and Patrick had chosen their paths, and though they were family, I couldn't let them drag me down with them. Mom had known that, and she'd given me a way out: the trust fund, her note, and her belief that I could do better. "Thank you, Ms. Martha," I said, standing. "Take care of yourself." She took my hand, her eyes kind. "You're like your mom, Sean. She'd be proud of you." Driving back to Stowe, I felt a strange sense of relief. The past was closed, not with forgiveness or reconciliation, but with acceptance. Ryan and Patrick had gone too far, and I couldn't save them. But I could protect Tessa and Lila, building the life Mom had sacrificed everything to give me. One autumn afternoon, as Stowe's maples blazed red and gold, I pushed Lila's bike through a park near our house. "Now 5, she giggled as the wheels crunched over dry leaves. Tessa walked beside me, holding my hand, her smile as gentle as the day we met. The sunset bathed the grass in warm gold. I looked at Lila, at Tessa, and a soft smile spread across my face. We were free from late-night knocks, from threats, from the shadow of the past. But that freedom came at a cost. I still carried scars, memories of Mom, of trying to save Ryan, of Patrick's cruel words. They'd never fade, but they reminded me to cherish what I had. A small family, a warm home, and a life Mom had given everything to make possible. I stopped to tie Lila's shoelace. She looked at me, her eyes sparkling. "Daddy, can I ride faster?" "Sure, sweetheart," I said, smiling. "But I'll always be here, keeping you safe." As Lila pedaled off, her laughter echoing in the sunset, I knew that no matter how painful the past was, I'd kept my promise to Mom and to myself. This is my story, from an exhausted warehouse worker in Springfield trapped by late-night knocks and the shadow of the past, to a man who found peace in Stowe, Vermont, beside Tessa and Lila, in a small wooden house overlooking a sparkling stream. My life now is full, free, with days spent pushing Lila's bike under the sunset, and evenings by the fireplace, listening to Tessa talk about the kids at Sunflower Preschool. But sometimes I wonder if my choice was truly right. If cutting off Ryan and Patrick completely, leaving behind memories of Mom in the old days, was too high a price for the freedom I now hold. I don't know. All I know is that my wife and daughter are happier and freer than ever. For me, that's enough.